Hello, everybody. This is The Home in the World by Rabindranath Tagore. Chapter 3, Sandip's Story Part 2. I can see that something has gone wrong. I got an inkling of it the other day. Ever since my arrival, Nico's sitting room has been a thing amphibious, half women's apartment, half men's. Bimala had access to it from the Zanana. It was not barred to me from the outer side. If we had only gone slow and made use of our privileges with some restraint, we might not have fallen foul of other people, but we went ahead so vehemently that we could not think of the consequences. Whenever B comes into Nico's room, I somehow get to know of it from mine. There are the tinkle of bangles and other little sounds. The door is perhaps shut with a shade of unnecessary vehemence. The bookcase is a trifle stiff and creaks if jerked open. When I enter, I find B with her back to the door, ever so busy selecting a book from the shelves, and as I offer to assist her in this difficult task, she starts and protests. And then we naturally get on to other topics. The other day, on an inauspicious Thursday afternoon, I sallied forth from my room at the call of these same sounds. There was a man on guard in the passage. I walked on without so much as glancing at him, but as I approached the door he put himself in my way, saying, "Not that way, sir." "Not that way? Why?" "The Rani mother is there." "Oh, very well. Tell your Rani mother that Sandip Babu wants to see her." "That cannot be, sir. It's against orders." I felt highly indignant. "I order you," I said in a raised voice, "go and announce me." The fellow was somewhat taken aback at my attitude. In the meantime, I had neared the door. I was on the point of reaching it when he followed after me and took me by the arm, saying, "No, sir, you must not." What? To be touched by a flunkey? I snatched away my arm and gave the man a sounding blow. At this moment, B came out of the room, and to find the man about to insult me. I shall never forget the picture of her wrath. That B is beautiful is a discovery of my own. Most of our people would see nothing in her. Her tall, slim figure these Boers would call lanky. But it's just the lithesomeness of hers that I admire, like an upleaping fountain of life, coming direct out of the depths of the Creator's heart. Her complexion is dark, but it's the lustrous darkness of the sword blade, keen and scintillating. "Nanku," she commanded as she stood in the doorway, pointing with her finger, "leave us." "Do not be angry with him," said I. "If it's against orders, it is I who should retire." B's voice was still trembling as she replied, "You must not go. Come in." It wasn't a request, but again a command. I followed her in, and taking a chair, fanned myself with a fan which was on the table. B scribbled something with a pencil on a sheet of paper, and summoning a servant, handed it to him, saying, "Take this to the Maharaja." "Forgive me," I resumed. "I was unable to control myself and hit that man of yours." "You served him right," said B. "But it was not the poor fellow's fault after all. He's only obeying orders." Here Nico came in, and as he did so, I left my seat with a rapid movement and went and stood near the window with my back to the room. "Nanku, the guard, has insulted Sandip Babu," said B to Nikhil. Nikhil seemed to be so genuinely surprised that I had to turn round and stare at him. Even an outrageously good man fails in keeping up his pride of truthfulness before his wife, if she be the proper kind of woman. "He instantly stood in the way when Sandip Babu was coming in here," continued B. "He said he had orders." "Well, whose orders?" asked Nico. "How am I to know?" exclaimed B impatiently, her eyes brimming over with mortification. Nikhil sent for the man and questioned him. "It was not my fault," Nanku repeated sullenly. "I had my orders." "And who gave you the order?" "The Badarani mother." We were all silent for a while. After the man had left, B said, "Nanku must go." Nikhil remained silent. I could see that his sense of justice would not allow this. There was no end to his qualms. But this time he was up against a tough problem. B was not the woman to take things lying down. She would have to get even with her sister-in-law by punishing this fellow, and as Nikhil remained silent, her eyes flashed fire. She knew not how to pour her scorn upon her husband's feebleness of spirit. Nikhil left the room after a while without another word. The next day Nanku was not to be seen. On inquiry, I learned that he had been sent off to some other part of the estates and that his wages had not suffered by such transfer. I could catch glimpses of the ravages of the storm raging over this behind the scenes, all I can say is that Nika was a curious creature, quite out of the common. The upshot was that after this, B began to send for me to the sitting room for a chat, without any contrivance or pretense of its being an accident. Thus, from bare suggestion, we came to broad hint. The implied came to be expressed. The daughter-in-law of a princely house lives in a starry region so remote from the ordinary outsider that there's not even a regular road for his approach. What a triumphal progress of truth was this which, gradually but persistently, thrust aside veil after veil of obscuring custom, till at length nature herself was laid bare. Truth? Of course it was truth. The attraction of man and woman for each other is fundamental. The whole world of matter, from the speck of dust upwards, is ranged on its side. Yet men would keep it hidden away out of sight, behind a tissue of words, and with homemade sanctions and prohibitions make of it a domestic utensil. Why, it's as absurd as melting down the solar system to make a watch chain for one's son-in-law. When, in spite of all, reality awakes at the call of what is but naked truth, what a gnashing of teeth and beating of breast is there. But can one carry on the quarrel with a storm? It never takes the trouble to reply, it only gives a shaking. I'm enjoying the sight of this truth as it gradually reveals itself. These trembling steps, these turnings of the face are sweet to me, and sweet are the deceptions which deceive not only others, but also B herself. When reality has to meet the unreal, deception is its principal weapon, for its enemies always try to shame reality by calling it gross, and so it needs must hide itself or else put on some disguise. These circumstances are such that it dared not frankly avow. Yes, I am gross because I'm true. I am flesh. I am passion. I am hunger, unashamed and cruel. All is clear to me. The curtain flaps, and through it I can see the preparations for the catastrophe. The little red ribbon which peeps through the luxuriant masses of her hair with its flush of secret longing. It is the lolling tongue of the red storm cloud. I feel the warmth of each turn of her sari, each suggestion of her raiment, of which even the wearer may not be fully conscious. B was not conscious because she was ashamed of the reality, to which men have given a bad name, calling it Satan. And so it has to steal into the garden of paradise in the guise of a snake, and whisper secrets into the ears of man's chosen consort, and make her rebellious. Then farewell to all ease, and after that comes death. My poor little Queen Bee is living in a dream. She knows not which way she's treading. It would not be safe to awaken her before the time. It's best for me to pretend to be equally unconscious. The other day, at dinner, she was gazing at me in a curious sort of way, little realizing what such glances mean. As my eyes met hers, she turned away with a flush. "You're surprised at my appetite," I remarked. "I can hide everything except that I'm greedy. Anyhow, why trouble to blush for me, since I am shameless?" Well, this only made her color more furiously as she stammered, "No, I was only—" "I know," I interrupted. "Women have a weakness for greedy men, for it's the greed of ours which gives them the upper hand. The indulgence which I have always received at their hands has made me all the more shameless. I do not mind your watching the good things disappear, not one bit. I mean to enjoy every one of them." The other day I was reading an English book in which sex problems were treated in an audaciously realistically manner. I had left it lying in the sitting room, and as I went there the next afternoon for something or other, I found B seated with this book in her hand. When she heard my footsteps, she hurriedly put it down and placed another book over it. A volume of Mr. Hemans' poems. "I've never been able to make out," I began, "why women are so shy about being caught reading poetry. We men, lawyers, mechanics, or what not, may well feel ashamed. If we must read poetry, it should be at dead of night within closed doors. But you women are so akin to poesy. The Creator himself is a lyric poet, and Jayadeva must have practiced the divine arts seated at his feet." B made no reply, but only blushed uncomfortably. She made as if she would leave the room, whereupon I protested. "No, no, pray, read on. I'll just take a book I left here and run away." With which I took up my book from the table. "Lucky you didn't think of glancing over its pages," I continued, or you have wanted to chastise me. Indeed? Why? Asked B. 'Cause it's not poetry, said I. Only blunt things, bluntly put, without any finicky niceness. I wish Nico would read it. B frowned a little as she murmured, What makes you wish that? He's a man, you see, one of us. My only quarrel with him is that he delights in a misty vision of the world. Have you not observed how this trait of his makes him look on Swadeshi as if it was some poem of which the meter must be kept correct at every step? We, with the clubs of our prose, are the iconoclasts of meter. What has your book to do with Swadeshi? You'd know if you only read it. Nico wants to go by made-up maxims, and Swadeshi isn't everything else, so he knocks up against human nature at every turn, and then falls to abusing it. He never will realize that human nature was created long before phrases were, and will survive them, too. B was silent for a while, and then gravely said, Is it not a part of human nature to try and rise superior to itself? I smiled inwardly. These are not your words, I thought to myself. You've learnt them from Nico. You are a healthy human being. Your flesh and blood have responded to the call of reality. You're burning in every vein with a life fire. Do I not know it? How long should they keep you cool with the wet towel of moral precepts? The weak are in the majority, I said aloud. They are continually poisoning the ears of men by repeating these shibboleths. Nature has denied them strength. It is thus that they try to enfeeble others. We women are weak, replied Bimala, so I suppose we must join in the conspiracy of the weak. Women weak, I exclaimed with a laugh. Men bellaud you as delicate and fragile, so as to delude you into thinking yourselves weak, but it is you women who are strong. Men make a great outward show of their so-called freedom, but those who know their inner minds are aware of their bondage. They've manufactured scriptures with their own hands to bind themselves, and with their very idealism they've made golden fetters of women to wind round their body and mind. If men had not the extraordinary faculty of entangling themselves in meshes of their own contriving, nothing would have kept them bound. But as for you women, you have desired to conceive reality with body and soul. You've given birth to reality. You've suckled reality at your breasts. B was well read for a woman, and would not easily give in to my arguments. If that were true, she objected, men would not have found women attractive. Women realize the danger, I replied. They know that men love delusions, so they give them full measure by borrowing their own phrases. They know that man, the drunkard, values intoxication more than food, and so they try to pass themselves off as an intoxicant. As a matter of fact, but for the sake of man, woman has no need for any make-believe. Why, then, are you troubling yourself to destroy the illusion? For freedom. I want the country to be free. I want human relations to be free.